Okay guys, so moving on to our next story, which confuses me, and I'll tell you why a little bit later. Funimation has actually licensed the Japanese live-action Death Note film. So that's the first two films in particular. The first Death Note movie and then the second Death Note movie. The Last Name, that was what it was called. And this one confuses me. Not because they aren't good movies or that they shouldn't be out in the US, but if you guys don't remember, if you were not like me in high school, maybe you're too young, you weren't in high school at the time, but these movies were released by Viz. I have the DVDs. They were released and they were released in theaters. I saw the first one in theaters where a lot of us were making really dumb jokes. Some of them good. I remember one person who, I think it was someone I knew in high school, said out loud when Matsuda mentioned, like, the apple, because we saw the dub. By the way, yes, there were dubs of these movies, and these are live-action movies. And so it was dubbed in English, and he said, like, it's an apple! Matsuda said that, and someone was like, yeah, Matsuda, you go, you're a detective! Like, or like, what a detective! No, he said, you should become a detective! And I laughed hysterically. I still find it funny, just my telling you guys the joke was terrible. But it was only my delivery. His delivery was pristine. So, why am I confused? Because, like I said, Viz released this. I didn't notice that this was out of print. I didn't realize the movies were out of print. And also the fact that these, by the way, the re-release is going to be subtitle only, so that's also interesting as well. Like, for some reason, Viz does not have the rights to this anymore. I don't know why they let them lapse, or I don't know if Warner Brothers took them away for some reason. I'm really confused because Warner Brothers, they're working with Viz on the release of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, so I don't know. It's not like there's like a relationship being broken down there. I wonder if it was just based on money, perhaps. But it's very interesting that Funimation is licensing these because you do wonder why they think there's a market for this. Were the movies bad? I don't think they were bad, but they came out, wow, a decade ago, almost, if not a decade ago. And these are coming out January 22nd, 2019. They're being bundled together, so you can get them both together, but they came out about a decade ago. So, yeah, literally in theaters 2008. That's when Viz screened them there, and then they put them out on home video. I'm just, like, I'm wondering why they think there's a market. Now, of course, some of you guys are going to tell me in the comment section, especially when you read the article that's in the description box, you're going to say, but Matt, there's that new movie coming out. Duh, that's why. You know, it ties into those. And, of course, I would imagine Funimation will probably be putting that out in theaters eventually, or at least on DVD. But the movie, Light Up the World, it's not that new. It came out in 2016. I thought it was super new. No, it came out in 2016. So, I wonder, although it's funny, it is 2 years after. And there's a reason why that's important. This isn't like a steadfast rule. I don't talk to these companies. I don't work with them. But I've noticed, and you can kind of check this out too a little bit, in certain situations when it comes to licensing, be it anime or other live-action Japanese media, you'll notice that unless it's something that the company, the licensing company is working very closely with the Japanese company on. So an example of breaking this rule that this thought that I have, Fooly Cooly, right, having Cartoon Network working on them, working with the Japanese side of things, putting money into it, so that's why they get Fooly Cooly before Japan even does. Space Dandy, similar situation. I don't know if it was Funimation, but I know that the company that released Space Dandy in the US worked with the Japanese side of things. That's why they sometimes got it even earlier than Crunchyroll did, in English, by the way. Simuldubs, technically it's a similar situation as well. You have the Japanese side of things working with either Funimation or another company doing a similar simuldub type thing. And even though Funimation works with Toei on Dragon Ball to a certain extent, which is why you have Dragon Ball Broly movie coming out only like a month after, or like 2 months after in the States, you know, in theaters when it's airing or being put into the Japanese theaters in December, I believe. So that's really close. But when it came to Super, the Japanese side of things kind of held back for a little bit, and sometimes that does happen, and they held back for about 1.5 years until the show ended up getting, not dubbed necessarily, but put on Crunchyroll. So in this case, you do wonder if perhaps Warner Brothers Japan was like, which I assume they're involved in Death Note Light Up the New World, they were thinking, no. Nah, not really. Also, there's talk when it comes to Evangelion. The reason why Funimation or another company hasn't put out Evangelion DVDs is because Anno, the director of Evangelion. He wants to put out the third Evangelion film, 3 point some odd. And so before that happens, he's not interested in bringing Evangelion, the original, to DVD. Now, those are just rumors. That's just pure speculation. And everything I've said so far has technically been speculation and rumor. Just stuff that I've noticed here and there, and then I'm piecing it together. But I do wonder, at the same time, though, regardless of, waiting on licenses and stuff like that, if now Funimation is doing this, not just to have something else in their library, because, again, I don't really think people are going to buy this unless there's something new on the DVD, but they might. Actually, I should note that there's a Blu-ray version as well, so which I'm pretty sure there has not been a Blu-ray version in the US as of yet. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure there is a Blu-ray version, like a German release, but I don't think there was a US release, so that could be a reason why some people pulled the trigger. In fact, that'd probably be the reason why I would buy it, actually. But I already have the DVDs, and they function just fine. So there's no, there's no disc read errors or anything like that. So unless they add something brand new, I don't know why I'd want to double dip and get the Blu-ray version. But if they do license Death Note Light Up the New World, yeah, I'd want to buy that, definitely, and I'd want to go to the theaters to see that as well. So I don't know if they put that in theaters, because even though Death Note is still relatively popular, it's clearly popular enough on Netflix that people wanted to watch an English version of it, right? I mean, clearly enough people wanted that Netflix wasn't going to, waste all that money. They clearly saw in their metrics, like, oh, people were really watching Death Note, the anime. And there was, a few years back, I believe, a live-action Death Note television show released in Japan that's on Crunchyroll as well. So you do have to wonder, maybe Death Note... I'm not saying that Death Note's not popular necessarily, but I feel like people who've bought the DVDs have... people who wanted the DVDs have already bought them. But perhaps... if they went out of print so long ago, right, which I guess they may have, then there's a bunch of newer fans who want to buy these, and they simply did not have the means to. But I was under the impression, again, maybe I'm wrong, that if you could potentially find this on eBay. Now, I won't look now, and the reason why is because there's a chance that with this news coming out, maybe they've either flooded eBay, or maybe people have tried to raise the price. Sometimes people do that with retro video games as well, so I don't know. So I'm going to look right now. But I'm curious, have you guys noticed that it might be harder to find these DVDs, or do you feel like you see them in bargain bins? Do you think this is a good move? I still don't know, because Death Note is popular. If they're bringing out the next movie, then yes, it makes sense to have the whole catalog, but they have not talked about licensing the third Death Note movie. If you guys don't remember, there was a third Death Note movie that was actually based off of a novel that was written. It wasn't written by the original creators of Death Note, but it is canon. It was about Elle working with Naomi Penber before she was Penber. I forgot her maiden name. But it was called Elle Changed the World. Capital L in world, by the way. The music for that, the ending, there was a song attached to it at the end credits, and it was done by Lenny Kravitz. Swear to God. Remember, Red Hot Chili Peppers, their songs were in the first two movies. Remember that. Your brain has now gone back to 2008. Oh my God, Red Hot Chili Peppers. But yeah, that's actually legit. So they haven't talked about releasing that. It was released by Viz. I think it was dubbed, but I'm not sure. I've never actually seen it, even though I own it, which is odd. But I don't remember if that movie was dubbed or just subbed. But yeah, and there's no dub for either of these two movies. It's subtitle only, which makes you think maybe Warner Brothers didn't have the rights to the dub. They usually would for any other show. Or maybe Funimation thought nobody wants to watch these dubbed. Why are we going to pay a little bit extra to get that? Maybe, I don't know, maybe something was in the contract where Viz needs to get a little bit of royalties from that, and Funimation was like, nah, no one's going to watch that dubbed, which is kind of interesting because in a way, I would. It wasn't a bad dub. As far as live-action dubs go of, English dubs go of live-action media, it wasn't bad. I remember, 1 to 2 things that were kind of awkward, but it wasn't a bad dub at all, which is kind of sad. And it was with the original voice cast for the anime, because they dubbed the movie in the U.S. after they did the anime. But in Japan, the movie came before the anime, funnily enough. So the voice of Ryuk, who is Shido Nakamura, was actually the voice of him in the movie before being the voice of Ryuk in the anime. Very interesting stuff. And he did the motion capture for Ryuk as well, I believe, although don't quote me on that. But yeah, so very interesting stuff. I hope you guys feel the same way that I do. Hope you guys find this interesting as well. And tell me what you think about this in the comment section down below. Will you be picking this up? Will you not be picking this up? Do you not care either way? Or is this something you might want to forget? Did you not like the movies back in the day? So yeah, I'm actually really curious about how many copies these are going to sell.